Hello, everyone. So I did something today I never thought I would do, and that is to listen to an Avenged Sevenfold record. Almost all of it. And normally I would never do such a thing, but a couple of people I follow online are describing it as essentially an oral faceplant of a record, and people are really fucking mad about it. And at this point, I don't know what makes people mad aside from not adhering to particular agendas. So, what could they have done? What could they have done to piss people off? Because as far as I know, they're just an average metalcore band who I heard kind of flirted with prog rock, prog metal, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't give a shit. But I decided to give it a listen, and I have kind of a lot to say, and at the same time, not a whole lot to say, which is kind of this record in a nutshell. If I were to describe the very basic ideas of the record, I would say it's kind of like sounding as if Between the Buried and Me and Muse decided to cover each other, and you hear the duality of two rip-off artist bands at the same time, and you get that constant contrast of gimmickry going on throughout the course of this record. Throughout the album, you're going to hear Alice in Chains, System of a Down, the Beach Boys, Daft Punk of all acts. You hear pretty much everyone except for Avenged Sevenfold, but that's based on me not knowing exactly what they sound like, but I'm not really hearing enough of character to really know what the band is. And I don't know if that's the midlife crisis that the band might be enduring, speaking out, but I will say if I were to pick out a particular idea that the record is trying to express, it's kind of a sneering admonishment of modern living, which, of course we all feel that. But unfortunately, the band decided to try to get this idea across with the glossiest, most overproduced music possible. And to me, that kind of makes it as if to listen to this record is to just swallow gallons of hypocrisy per minute. It's essentially the equivalent of a bespectacled asshole sitting in Starbucks at a laptop talking online about how great socialism is. It's that kind of idea where it's people that are not, it's vapid people trying to create music that isn't vapid and doing it by only clinging on to gimmickry to do so. But that's what people are listening for nowadays. People are not going to be trying to hear actually new melodic ideas. They're going to try to hear genre smashing together to try to get the idea across that they're doing something brand new, when in fact you could pinpoint all the influences as you hear it. Now, I'm not going to say that from what I listened to I didn't hear cool shit. There's cool shit here. There's actually some really remarkably amazing stuff vocally, and I'm not familiar with the band. I don't know how this vocalist usually sounds, but I was pretty astonished at what he was capable of. But yeah, musically, I don't know, if I were to compare the experience of the record, I would say there's stuff that's almost as cringeworthy as if have you ever listened to that Pain of Salvation B record? Not a lot of people know the band, but they were a prog rock, prog metal band who I actually enjoyed the Remedy Lane record. And then they talked about putting out this record called B, and it was going to be this huge, rock opera type of record. And it was the most difficult experience that I've had listening to a record. It's just so cringeworthy. I just felt my balls rising into my stomach cavity with every passing second. It was impossible to endure. This is kind of the same experience, but lighter and more interesting musically. But interesting is only on the superficial merits of it. So I don't know, if this was your go-to band for metal and you're fucking pissed off because they're doing something different, you got what you deserve. And if this was your go-to metal band and you're talking to people and pretending that you like it for those cool contrarian points, you're also getting what you deserve, because you're going to have to listen to this and pretend you enjoy it. But yeah, does the record deserve me talking about it? I suppose yes, which is why I'm going to spend the rest of the day talking about this record, Disillusion's Gloria. Why? Because this record, to me, does a much better job of getting across what the Avenged Sevenfold record does. It does it in a way where you get the idea across that there is this dread about the material world swallowing the natural world. And when this record came out, well, let me give you a little backstory of the band. Now, for those cult listeners of the channel, you can go ahead and skip to another video because this band is not for you. This is essentially what they had done in the 2004 Back to Times of Splendor record. They put out like a folk metal take on maybe a Devin Townsend type of record. And I really enjoyed it for what it was. But if you want to listen to that record, you're going to have to know that it's essentially the oral equivalent of maybe a middle-aged woman's romance novel cover. It's very sentimental music. And for what it is, if you like early In Flames, that kind of stuff in the guitar, you may enjoy this record, or that record, Back to Times of Splendor. So what they did was, that record was critically acclaimed by all the, superficial metal rags at the time. And then 2 years later, they put out Gloria, and this fucking pissed people off. And none of my friends like it either. I'm the only person I know that likes Gloria, and it is not an easy listen. The reason I like it so much is because it nails the idea of the material world swallowing the natural world. The band had a very organic sound before, and they decided with this record to kind of allow EDM influence, a little bit of breakcore, stuff that really does not fit with what they were doing. And that contrast is so alarming that you're dealing with a confrontation that metal is sorely lacking right now. Is it successful all the way through? I can't answer that. What I will say is that this record is melodically centered. It still has the spirit of the old record, the Back to Times of Splendor record, but it's showing how the modern world can destroy the framework of it. And I really do enjoy that it makes me feel like I'm at odds with myself trying to listen to it, not in so much the cringeworthy way that like the Pain of Salvation record or the Avenged Sevenfold record does, but it's showing me that we shouldn't be bystanders to what is all happening all around us. This record is the equivalent to like modern assholes that are going to throw gallons of paint at like a famous painting in a museum for climate change. That's what this record is. And when it came out, it fell on a lot of deaf ears. There's things about it that still are hard for me to listen to. There's, much like the Avenged Sevenfold, there are very cringeworthy lyrical lines. And both records have fantastic singers. And I do come back to this mainly because I think that the vocal and guitar interplay and the contrast between the EDM stuff really does develop a kind of vibe that just doesn't exist in many other records. There have been records since that have tried to marry the two ideas. We could talk about that horrific Morbid Angel record, but this is more showing you why things don't work, and it's a head-on collision of things. And the issue with the Avenged Sevenfold record is it feels like it's coming at you from a place of ego. It feels like every time they give you the what are they going to do next thing, that it's written in a way where they want the audience to just be like dumbfounded by the buffoonery of their arrangements. With this, it does not feel like it's a first-person excursion. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but this feels like it places you as a bystander to a horror show of elements that do not marry in any way. And I come back to it usually maybe once a year. I do enjoy the melodies on the record. I enjoy what the record is saying, and I think it's more relevant than ever. I understand that you guys as an audience are going to fucking hate this record, and it deserves it for a lot of reasons. But what the record is saying succeeds so much more than what the Avenged Sevenfold did, what the Pain of Salvation did. This really does get across that idea so much better. So if you get caught up in wanting to hear what Avenged Sevenfold is trying to do without letting the ego drive the product, try this out, because this feels like they were tapping into something that was beyond them, and it's not. It's still coming from the heart of their previous releases, but it's showing you that what they had brought to the table, they were willing to turn their back on despite the critical acclaim, and they were willing to do so to show an audience that there's a fucking terror out there, and it's coming. And there's ways to musically develop that, whereas a lot of abrasive metal is now wallpaper music. So I am intrigued to see what kind of bands are going to do this in different forms in the future. But check it out. It's not for everybody. The Avenged Sevenfold isn't for everybody either. But a lot of people are pretending to like that, and there's worse things you can do with your day. So thanks for listening.